phone away. Monday show.
Oh, I was getting you ready, buddy.
Live from New York. It's the show that's welcoming Chris Broussard back.
Fingers crossed.
One day.
It's 2 days.
Missed
It's one
We had a show
day.
on Thursday.
I was there.
He was there
No,
Thursday.
I
you
missed Friday.
bozo. He missed 2 days the last
God.
week. You were
Oh,
there.
sorry.
Yeah, he's got it right.
Jeez. Was that a good show on Thursday? Today, Dak Prescott.
Oh!
Do you like Rodgers sticking up for his coach?
Yeah. Right. Listen, I do not believe in the Jets this year. I do not think Aaron Rodgers is still a great quarterback. But that doesn't change the fact that he keeps doing the right thing, and you have to give him credit for doing the right thing. Yeah. No, I'm just giving. No, I am just a fair arbiter. I just call balls and strikes out here, and I am a fair arbiter of what I'm seeing. The bonding with teammates at the sporting events was objectively a good thing.
Yes.
Participating in the offseason program was objectively a good thing. Giving money back to the team to help them get other players is potentially objectively a good thing, certainly not a bad thing. Sticking up for his guys and his coaching staff, his much maligned coach, is objectively a good thing, and I'll add a fifth little bonus. Oh. I believe the Jets' best case scenario is they are fighting for that final wild card spot. Mm-hmm. Another team whose best case scenario is fighting for that final wild card spot is the Denver Broncos. Right. And I think him adding to the pressure, and more than adding to the pressure, making sure this storyline extends longer is bad for the Broncos, which objectively is a good thing for the Jets. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I give the guy credit. I think at 40 years old, he's going to have real struggles this year, but he has handled this offseason almost perfectly, Brew. Okay.
I agree. I agree. And I feel bad for Wildes because I know you're sitting up here like you're upset. Because you know what you saw in that video? An angry Aaron Rodgers.
He was disappointed.
No, he was angry. He was
don't
angry.
play well, disappointed.
He clearly was angry. Now, what Sean Payton did might backfire on him because I agree. They could both be fighting for one of those last playoff spots. And he is now added to the chip that I think already was on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. So he may make the Jets even better. I agree with Nick. Look, him sticking up for Nat Hackett, that's just going to strengthen Hackett's credibility within that locker room. I'm not saying guys already didn't believe in him, but let's face it. We saw what he came from last year, and now this helps having one of the best quarterbacks ever, sign off on him in a major fashion.
It's also kind because of the way he was attacked. It's a kind thing to do to publicly back him.
And people are probably looking at what Hackett did last year and saying, what is Aaron Rodgers seeing him? kind of like the cheerleader. What is she seeing in her? I won't go, just throwing it out there. But they're saying, what is he seeing him? But we have seen many coordinators who were great. Josh McDaniels comes to mind, who weren't good head coaches. All right, we'll see if I'll give your boy a chance to turn it around. But so far, he hadn't been good. That doesn't mean you're not a great coordinator. And he and Rodgers have obviously had great times together. Look, I liked Sean Payton standing up for Russell Wilson. He probably went too far, but I think he was really trying to defend Russ. Mm-hmm. And I like Aaron Rodgers defending his coach. So I'm good with both sides.
Okay, can I pitch you a question? When Aaron Rodgers joined the Jets, we were like, what type of team are the Jets going to be?
Sure.
And I think they've established or decided maybe we are going to be a team that responds. Robert Saleh will respond to criticism. Aaron Rodgers, you want to criticize the darkness retreat? He will respond. You want to criticize some of his personal decisions? He will respond. You want to criticize his coach? He will respond. The Patriots, on the other hand, are a team that is not going to respond. You can say anything you want. Bill Belichick's going to go up there and not give you anything. So, Brew, before the season started, before you kind of fell back in love with Aaron Rodgers, you were worried about the Jets getting off to a slow start and the back page of all those newspapers. Now, I don't think they're going to go undefeated, so when that criticism happens, are you worried about the Jets being a team that responds, losing their focus a little bit?
I think that's a fair point. I think if it does go badly, I'm not saying it will, but let's say they start really badly.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Start 1-4.
If they're 1-4 and the back pages start ripping them, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been responding now for a few years, right?
Yep.
In Green Bay. And now, I think it could go south early. And maybe even Salah. Salah's talked a little bit too.
And
so
Salah, by the way, Salah was a talker
before
Rodgers. If you remember last year, and it looked briefly like Salah was going to be vindicated in this, then the season kind of fell apart.
Right.
But after the very beginning of the season, Salah had the receipts press conference. Do you remember that when he said, he's like, oh, we know what everyone's saying, and we're keeping the receipts. And everyone kind of laughed at him, but then all of a sudden they were 7-4, and he looked like vindicated, but then 7-4 became 7-10. And so Salah, I don't think this is false bravado from Robert Saleh. I think that is who he is, and I think his, if you don't got haters, you ain't popping line was maybe a little bit of trying to kind of put, pander to the players a bit, but still, I think that is who he is. The one thing Aaron said that I disagree with just from a logical standpoint is that I do not think Sean Payton's comments created an off-ramp for him if the season goes poorly.
Yep.
I think it upped the pressure on him because what he was saying there is we have good enough players, except for the offensive line, it sounded like, but they brought in new offensive linemen. Our quarterback's still great. I'm going to be pissed off if we don't make the playoffs. So why didn't it go well? It was the worst coaching job in the history of football. That's what he called it, or paraphrase it. I think that only upped the pressure on the Broncos. It wasn't like this is such a disaster. Agree. I didn't know what I walked into. Right. So I disagree with Rodgers just kind of asserting
because
there.
Most people were not looking at Denver as a playoff team. A lot of people thought Russ is falling off. Yeah, he'll be better under Payton, but he's not that good anymore.
8 wins.
And now you're thinking, he's saying they're going to make the playoffs.
Yes.
So absolutely.
All right, these teams will match up in Denver week 5. 2 Super Bowl champion quarterbacks on new/kind of new teams coming off uncharacteristic bad performances last year. Here's the first 5 weeks for both teams. The Broncos have got the Raiders, the Commanders, frisky Commanders, Dolphins, Bears, Jets, and then the Jets are going to lose on Monday Night Football against the Bills, go into Dallas and lose against the Patriots, who they haven't beaten since 2005, and then it's the Chiefs, maybe like a letdown game, and then the Broncos. So who's under more pressure to win this game, bro?
Because of the schedule, and another thing too, the Jets. All right, the Jets will have the most pressure because I don't think they'll be 1-3, because I think they'll split with Buffalo and Dallas. They'll get one of those games. And then they'll beat the Patriots.
But it should be noted, by the way, also, the game after this, the Jets have the Eagles. So, but go ahead. So I understand
So my point is, though, because of the Jets schedule, they could be 1-3, and we talked about it. If they lose this game, you're 1-4, and you lost to the team that loud talked you, right? And you loud talked them back.
Yeah.
And they called you out, and you couldn't do anything about it. The back pages in New York and the tabloids will have a field day with that. And then that's what we talk about, the pressure ramping up. Now, Denver, I think Denver's schedule is, look, I don't know how good you guys think they'll be, but 3 of these games are very winnable. If we can see who they got, the Commanders.
Raiders,
I know you
Commanders, Dolphins, Bears.
Yeah. I mean, all of those games are actually conceivably winnable. Yeah, so if they're 3-1 or whatever, 2-2 even, if they lose this game, and just face it, expectations are much higher for the Jets publicly and nationally. So I think the more pressure's on them.
The problem for the Broncos, leave that up if you would, is as opposed to for the Jets, it's what comes before this Week 5 game. For the Broncos, it's what comes right after this Week 5 game. And this is where I think the Broncos and where I think Sean Payton made a grievous error. Because now I think this is a must-win for the Broncos. Because I'm sorry, I'm not trying to do schedule theater. No, no matter what they do up before, I'll explain the logic. If we can put the schedule back up there, I think if they're going poorly and they lose this game, it's obviously a disaster. But if they're going well and they lose this game, guess what, guys? You're about to go on a bit of a losing streak after this game, no matter what. Because you have the Chiefs twice in 3 weeks, then the Bills and the Vikings. So, we'll see what the Packers are. So then it will be like, everything was going well. And then the team who your coach chirped at came to your building and beat you, and now all of a sudden the season's in a tailspin. So this is a bit of a cop-out answer. I don't mean it to be. But both teams have to win the game.
Because they're both, as you said, at best, well, I'm not so sure about the Jets, but they could be fighting for that last playoff spot.
Correct.
Both of them.
So it's just again.
Okay, now we're good.
What?
We're good.
What do you mean?
He came out, I said, who's under more pressure? And he said, boom, the Jets, the back page, they started stuff. And you did a whole thing where you say both teams. You said both.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's Monday, but you gotta.
Well, he prefaced it with, this isn't a cop-out.
Yeah, well, it's not a cop-out.
That's like with all due respect, but...
These guys are unbelievable.
No disrespect. It's the no disrespect.
Early on, he was like, I'm just calling balls and strikes out here.
Right. What was that? Was that a ball or a strike?
Oh, my gosh.
You didn't call it. You
up.
just let it go.
All right, we're going to do another
It was neither. It wasn't a ball or a strike. Do-over. It's just a do-over.
The Athletic has released their quarterback tiers. They used a group, not a committee, of coaches and executives to come up with their tiers. Here's what the first tier looked like. Mahomes was unanimous. Burrow, Allen, Rodgers, and Herbert. Nick, were you totally satisfied with this?
You're such a jackass. Rodgers has no business being where he is. None whatsoever. And we're going to dive into the different nuances of this ranking throughout the show, but just focus just on Rodgers. Guys, there is one argument to be made that Aaron Rodgers, at soon to be 40, is going to have a bounce back season. One argument. Tom Brady did it.
That's right.
Guys, we have seen for a decade Rodgers isn't Brady. And the other argument is, well, he bounced back at the end of last season. No, he did not.
Love it.
Rodgers, during that the final 5 games of last year, when they won 4 and then lost the Lions. More on Lions in a moment. Can we show you his numbers, please? They were not good. Yeah. He was not. It's not like, he turned it around. No, what happened is they played the Bears, who lost 10 in a row in the year. They played the Rams, who were an injured mess. They played Miami in a game that we then found out later Tua got concussed in and played. That was the game where he threw the 3 second-half interceptions. They played Minnesota, who was a good team. But Aaron threw for 159 yards that game. Minnesota turned the ball over 4 times. And then they played Detroit in a playoff game, in a win-and-you're-in game, and it ended, can we play it for you, please, on this. For the 2nd straight year, the ball was in Rodgers' hands at home, for the 3rd straight year, actually. Rodgers' hands at home with a chance to make a play. And he couldn't make it. Instead, he just throws a pop-up to lose to the Lions at Lambeau. And so is that guy all of a sudden going to be back to being a top 4 quarterback? Of course not, bro. Of course not.
2 months ago, I was with you.
Okay. What changed?
A lot has changed.
And Nick, you know what?
I know Nick gave.
He was in a darkness retreat.
Nick gave 2 reasons when he said there's only one, Tom Brady. But I got 4 for why he struggled last year. Number 1, he was injured.
Okay.
If a broken thumb on your throwing hand, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying it can hurt you a little bit.
Okay.
He also wasn't playing well prior to the injury.
Yeah.
Hold on. Injured, number 1. Yeah. Number 2, new offensive coordinator. He loves Nat Hackett.
Oh, my God.
He thinks he's a great family man. He loves his kids. Right. He says he makes it
great
fun.
At darts.
He loves him, right?
Yeah.
He was gone, so he's upset about that. Number 3, no chemistry with the young receivers. His fault, but still, no chemistry with the young receivers. And number 4, he wasn't as engaged. He didn't want to be there. He did not want to be in Green Bay.
Did he want to beat the Lions?
What I'm looking at now.
Did he want to beat the Lions?
He didn't deliver. And you know, I've been a Rodgers critic on the big game.
And you flipped.
But here's the thing. Now he's back with Nat Hackett.
Okay.
That's a good reason. Number 1. Yeah. Now he's got better weapons. Nick, you want to downplay Garrett Wilson and company.
He's good.
That could be wrong.
Okay.
All right. Number 3, he clearly is engaged. Yeah. And what is the best Aaron Rodgers? Coach Mangini told us on
either a mad
Thursday.
one, a disrespectful
an angry one with a chip on his shoulder.
One.
And he's got a huge chip on his shoulder.
A one with Devontae Adams.
Well, Garrett Wilson is
not Devontae Adams.
He might not be Devontae Adams, but he might be close.
Okay.
All right, they got a good running back game. Don't let him sign Dalvin Cook. The defense is legit. Look, this dude is all in.
I mean, he was.
I'm not saying he's going to play till he's 45 like Brady. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to have 2 very good years. but I bet you he can have one.
Maybe.
Okay.
He hasn't thrown for 300 yards in 23 weeks. Last year, he averaged 217 yards, less than Carson Wentz and less than Jimmy G. And no one's saying they're top 10
Again,
quarterbacks.
even if you don't think he hit the proverbial cliff and is just going to keep falling, there is not an argument to be made other than I saw him win an MVP a couple years ago that he's one of the 8 best quarterbacks in football.
He wasn't last year. There's no doubt about that.
And what 40-year-old behind a worse offensive line with a new quarterback, a new coach and a new conference in a tougher division gets better?
Look, he's not Tom Brady. We all know that. But Brady's last year in New England, we saw he couldn't make other mediocre receivers great anymore. He went to Tampa Bay, he got more talent, and we know the rest.
Yes, but that was Brady.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But he's still an all-time great.
He's a
premier all-time
He is an all-time great who, at the peak of his recent powers, all 3 of his seasons, the last 3 years, from his 2 MVP years to this past year, have ended at home with the ball in his hands, and he failed to make the play. And now he is in the toughest division that he's been in maybe ever, certainly in a decade plus, or in the last half decade at least, under unfamiliar circumstances, at going to be 40 years old, where we are putting it's not that I don't love Garrett Wilson. It's that we are putting so much stock in a singular receiver that we have seen play 1 year of football.
They got other good receivers. Allen Lazard, you know your man Hardman.
Hold on. Where was Allen Lazard most recently?
He's the number 2. He's the number 2. What was he last year?
He was their number 2.
Who was number 1 last year?
I would assume it was Christian Watson when he started catching half a dozen touchdown passes.
They really didn't have a number 1
No, exactly. So they have Allen Lazard. And people are like, people are talking about all these weapons.
He's not
it is
number
Garrett
1.
Wilson, who I think will be great one day. But again, we have seen rookie receivers.
Great last year.
He was excellent for a rookie last year. And then Mecole Hardman, who I've watched every snap of his career. He's fine and
as a number 3, right?
But that's what he was in Kansas City.
Right, and that's what he is. He's a number 3.
Okay.
Right. And Lazard's a number 2.
If Lazard is your number 2, you don't have a great receiving core. How about that?
I disagree.
Really?
Yes.
They have a great receiving core.
Because Wilson is great. I believe Garrett Wilson is great. And I think Lazard's a serviceable number 2. And Hardman is a more than serviceable number 3.
Okay, so they have 2 serviceable and 1 great. That is not a great receiving core. That is 1 great receiver.
All right.
Okay.
And a terrible offensive line. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.